that page 18, and I told y'all this on Friday, I just didn't do it with you, and it showed because some of you did not put it. Page 18 should have been your test review work. I did not take off if you were missing it in your table of contents. I did take off if you didn't have your test review work in your notebook at all, because it should have been in there. Okay? So I'm going to leave this for a second, let y'all get it. All right, we are starting a brand new unit. So this is Unit 2C. This entire unit is about solving quadratic equations. So this is a very big topic, like I said, when you get on to Math 3 and Math 4. Yesterday, you were supposed to copy down those 2 quick examples from Solve by Factoring. If you didn't, it's fine. The video is still there. You can go do it, okay? Not now, though. But page 19 was Solve by Factoring review. And today we're going to be talking about solving quadratics by the square root method. So I'm going to pause and let y'all get this caught up, and then we'll go ahead and get started with notes. We're going to start off with this statement. The quickest way to solve a quadratic function. So review from yesterday. When we solve, what are we finding? Roots, zeros, solutions. Those are all names for what? X-intercepts. Good. So we're talking about if you had your exam and it was non-calculator and I gave you a quadratic function and said, find the x-intercepts, you'd have to do it by hand, right? That's what this whole unit is about, okay? That's a very big topic when you get to pre-calculus if y'all take that. I'm hoping you all do because you will have me again probably. What do you think the quickest way to solve for the x-intercepts is by? What have we been doing for like the past 3 units? Factoring. That is the fastest way. Normally, I'm adding something to the end of that. Normally, factoring is the quickest way. So what we're going to talk about today is if it looks like a special kind of quadratic, you can use this shortcut called the square root method, okay? All right, so what'd you say? I think some of you might have learned it in Math 1. Some people may have. If a quadratic is in vertex form, need y'all to write that and underline it. That's a vocab review. If a quadratic is in vertex form, or the B term is missing. Now let's review that. B term is where in a quadratic function? The middle, good. So the middle is missing. You can put middle if that's going to help you. Very good. Then the most efficient, what's efficient mean? Good. Quickest, fastest, least amount of work. Good. The most efficient method to solve will be the square root method. My handwriting is ugly today. I need to get it together. Square root method. It's because I haven't taken notes in like 5 days. All right, square root method. What do you think we're going to be doing when we use the square root method?
Squaring.
Taking the square root. Very good. Duh, right? It's in the name. We're going to be taking the square root. Good, Carter. So here's your steps for the square root method. I'm going to put them in pink. We're going to use inverse operations. We know what that means for math 1, right? What's inverse operations mean? Opposite. Good job, Henry. You're getting all the extra credit. Use inverse operations to get the x squared term by itself. What can we do to x squared to find just a plain old x? What's the opposite of squaring something? Take the square root. So once you get the x squared term by itself to solve for x, we're going to take the square root of both sides of the equation. I'm going to abbreviate if that's okay with y'all. And then the last step is to finish solving for x. So you're going to do that by isolating x, which means just get x by itself. So I'm going to let y'all finish copying those, and then we're going to jump straight into examples. Y'all, these boys are crazy. All right. Example 1. Lord Jesus. I'm not sure what it means to say somebody looks plastic. All right, listen up, kiddos. Copy this down. Example 1, you're going to find the x-intercepts. We're going to find the x-intercepts. We're going to solve it. Anytime your instructions say to solve, right now, that means we are finding the x-intercepts. Evan, that was so fast. There she is. Like, okay. I want to make sure we're all with us because there's lots of side conversations going on, and I've already said this, so now I'm going to have to say it again. We are using it to find the x-intercepts. This whole unit, all we're doing is finding x-intercepts. Right now, this whole unit, starting now. All right. Finding the x-intercepts. Now, what do you guys notice about the quadratic that I gave you? There's 2 things we should notice. There's no b term. Did everybody hear Sean? That was very good. The b term is missing. Everybody sees that, right? Okay, there's something else you should also notice. They are
square.
Okay, they are perfect squares. Can you factor this? Really? Y'all can factor perfect squares when there's an addition sign in the middle? No, you can't. They're being mean to each other today. You cannot factor it if there's an addition sign in between them. When I taught you guys factoring of binomials, told you it had to be perfect squares and you had to be subtracting. And we even did an example trying to do the addition one and we couldn't get it to work. Do y'all remember doing that, or do I need to show you again? Show you again, okay. Don't tell him to shut up. You're not being very nice today. With everything that keeps going on at our school, y'all need to learn how to be nicer to each other. We've had this discussion. This does not factor. So you guys told me when we first learned about this, you were like, I feel like we could split it up like this, x plus 6, x plus 6. You can't, because when you FOIL it back out, you get x squared plus 12x plus 36. Well, then y'all told me when we first learned this, Jaden, or you remember now? Y'all were like, okay, well, what if you make them both negative? That just makes the 12x in the middle a negative. And then y'all said, well, what if they're different? Then there is nothing in the middle, and this is negative. So you cannot factor 2 perfect squares that are adding. You can't. It's not even an option for this one. So this is where we're going to use our square root method. If we're trying to find x-intercepts, what is always the first step? Set it equal to what? There we go. Put 0 in for y. That is always your first step. I didn't write that one down because we should really understand that by now, okay? You put 0 in for y. That'll tell you where the x-intercepts are. Now, step 1 says use inverse operations to get x squared by itself. So cover your x squared. What do we need to move? The 36, and you do inverse operations. So they said in class we're going to subtract 36. My people at home, do y'all agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm getting negative 36 equals x squared. Is that what y'all are getting? Okay. So that's step 1. Step 2 says to get x by itself, to get rid of the squared, we're going to square root both sides of the equation. So everybody watch. I'm going to take the square root of the right side and the left side. Now, what happens when you take the square root of a squared? They cancel, their inverses, they cancel. So this is just going to leave us with x, which is what we want. We're trying to find x, right? So I've got x equals. What do I do on the left side? Oh, I'm hearing good stuff. I'm hearing good stuff. Yay! Online people, where y'all at today for your extra credit? I'm excited because y'all got it. Can we take the square root of a negative? No two numbers times themselves will ever be negative. If you multiply a number by itself, it's always going to be positive. So what they said in class, they were like, oh, wait, if you have the square root of a negative, what did you say that means? It's imaginary. Some of the people sitting at home later are going to watch this and they're going to feel sick to their stomach because they did not like Unit 1. It's back. Imaginary. Now, what is the square root of 36? Okay, let's talk about it because I'm going to add something else on. They're saying 6. When you take, it is imaginary, yes, but listen, let's talk about it. When you take the square root of 36, I'm asking what two numbers times themselves will give you 36, right? 6 times 6 does. What else does? It's not necessarily a different number. Negative 6 times negative 6 is also 36. So it can be positive or negative. So this is what's different. Your answer is going to be positive or negative imaginary 6. Yes, that's where that sign comes from. When you take the square root, and I didn't show y'all this in Unit 1 because we weren't actually solving in Unit 1. We were just focused on simplifying. When you are actually solving for a root, when you take the square root, it can be positive or negative. So I know there might be some confusion, but don't y'all agree positive 6 times positive 6 is 36? And so is negative 6 times negative 6. That's also 36. So it can be either one. What'd you say, babe? That's anytime you take a square root, you need that plus or minus because it could be positive or negative. Now, somebody different, tell me why this makes sense. What kind of, I'm going to give you a hint. Now listen, let me pause for 1 second because I understand. All right, let me give you a push in the right direction without helping you. What kind of equation was this to start with? What kind of equation? Yes, it's a binomial. That's not what I'm asking. Quadratic. How many x-intercepts can a quadratic have? 2. That's why we got 2 answers. So it would touch, this quadratic would touch at imaginary 6, 0 and imaginary negative 6, 0. Those would be the 2 x-intercepts. The reason you get 2 is because it's a quadratic, which means there's 2 sides. So normally it touches twice on the x-axis. Are you confused or you're okay? Okay. People at home, questions before I move on. I hear a good one. What's up? And for this one, I'm going to have y'all talk me through it. So example 2, let's do 4x squared minus 6 equals 74. All right. What do we notice about this quadratic? Let's just look at the left side. Y'all are thinking about this one doesn't factor. So just talk to me about the left. Talk to me about the left side. What'd you say, babe?
There's no B term.
There's no B term. Does everybody see how the B is missing again? A lot of times when the B is missing, it won't factor. This one does not factor. Because if I give you one that factors, ideally you would probably use factoring because that's what you're used to. So most of these I'm going to give you will not factor, okay? So the B is missing. That means we can do our square root method. Review from yesterday and from last unit. What does it have to be equal to solve for the x-intercepts? 0.
Zero.
Good. So we need to get it equal to 0. So how do you make this side 0? How do we move the 74?
Subtracted by 74.
Subtracting it. Very good. So I'm going to subtract the 74. Subtract the 74. Blah, blah, blah. So did y'all get 4x squared minus 80 equals 0? Okay, good. Now, Paris, I just want you to watch because I know somebody's going to be like, I feel like it would factor. Do not write this because it does not factor. I'm telling you it doesn't, but I want to show you. If you take out a GCF of 4, does everybody agree we would be left with, if it'll let me write, x squared minus 20? Is 20 a perfect square? Then it doesn't factor. So if it won't factor, fastest method when the B term is missing is square root method. To use the square root method, you got to get the x squared by itself to take the square root. So I'm going to cover the x squared. What do we need to move first? The 80. Good. Now, everybody listen. Do y'all see how I cover where x squared is every single time to see what we need to move? You should have learned that in Math 1. If you didn't, it's okay. I'm showing you now. That works all the way through calculus. Cover wherever the x is, and it'll show you what to move first, okay? So we need to move the negative 80. How do you move a negative 80? Add it. So do y'all agree we're going to be left with 4x squared equals 80? You cannot take the square root yet. Don't do it yet. Yes, good, Jaden. You got to get the x squared by itself. That's what step 1 says. So you got to divide the 4. What's 80 divided by 4?
20.
20. So do y'all agree this is x squared equals 20?
Yes.
Yes. All right. How do I get x squared to go away? How do I make it just a plain x? Square root both sides. And when we take the square root of x squared, it just ends up being x, right? Okay. I'm hearing uh-huhs. How many answers should I get? 2, because we're taking a square root. It's a quadratic. You can get a positive or negative, and now I have some people looking at me weird. Why are y'all looking at me weird? You can't take the square root of 20. You can't. It's not a perfect square, is it? It's irrational. We remember that word? Jordan looked scared. It's irrational. It's not a perfect square. I'm waiting for somebody to pick up what I'm throwing down here. I told you Unit 1 stuff is back. It's not a perfect square. If only we could make it look a little bit smaller so we could figure out where it would be.
Factor.
Yeah, okay, you're on the same, they're on the same page. Carter, you're on the same page as them too. Do you guys remember in Unit 1, Okay, then pay attention. Listen, if I lost you, pay attention. In unit 1, we had to find the biggest perfect square that would go into the number to simplify it. Some of y'all are like, mother trucker, I hated this. It's back. I said trucker. Oh my God. Anyways, you're fine. This is high school. You're okay. You've heard it in the hallway, I'm sure. What's the biggest perfect square that goes into 20? 4. 4 times what? Yes, you do remember this. I was about to say, I know you do. We did it for like a whole week. What's the square root of 4? So do you guys agree this should be x equals plus or minus 2 square root of 5? So I'm going to pause for a second because they're asking really good questions. Think of your question and ask it if you have one. Let's go to example 3 and people can write it down while you're asking it. I'm going to step this one up just a little bit. Y'all are fine. Don't be whiny. Any questions before we do example 3? And then I'll probably do one more. I feel like y'all will be good. And then we'll have homework time, about 10 minutes. Some of these don't take long. Everybody's good? Yeah? Okay. This would factor. I know it doesn't because I made the example and I made it where it wanted. This would factor, but would factoring be the fastest way with this one? No, this kind of looks like what? Yeah, it kind of looks like vertex form. It's not exactly vertex form because I have the squared on the inside, but it looks like vertex form, which is what we wrote down. So the fastest way to solve this, Jake, are you with me, bud? Fastest way to solve this is going to be by doing square root method, okay? So we want to solve for x squared. I'm not even going to move it over and set it equal to 0 because I'm telling y'all it will not factor. We want to get x squared by itself. So look where the x squared is. It's in parentheses. Let's cover this whole term. What do you need to move first? That -8, and how do you move a -8? You add it. There we go. Some of y'all are excited because you were like, this feels like math 1. If I show this to my math 1 kids, they'd probably cry. Maybe. I'm not sure. I shouldn't say that. Some of them would be able to do it. From here, again, use the trick I've been showing you. Cover up where x squared is because some of y'all about to do this with extra work. You don't need to distribute. Cover up where x squared is. Look right here. Cover it up. It's in parentheses. How do you move the 3 if it's touching the parentheses? Divide it. Good, Jaden. It's multiplying, so to get rid of it, you would divide it. What's 15 divided by 3? So we have x squared plus 1 equals 5. Bless you. Can we take the square root yet? Pay attention. Can we take the square root yet? What do we got to do, Jaden? Subtract 1. You're killing the game. Good job. Subtract 1. What's 5 minus 1? 5 minus 1. Don't say that. That boy. X squared equals 4. Hello? X squared equals 4. How do you get x by itself? Square root. And I gave you kind of a nice one. What's the square root of 4? 2. What kind of 2s? Plus or minus. Good job. Good. It's an extra step. Okay, good. I want to say what he just said. This was good. I hope we're all listening. He got it set equal to 0, so he moved the 7 over, but then he had to just take this 15 and move it back over. So that's why I said if it's in vertex form, you don't even need to set it equal to 0 because you're just going to end up doing an extra step. It was an extra step. Yep. All right, last one because I really feel like y'all are okay with this. And if you're not, I need you to ask me a question. All right, let's do this one. F of x equals 9 times 2x minus 3 squared minus, I'm going to give y'all some big numbers. Why not? You'll be all right. My dad loves to say that to me or my brother when we're complaining. You'll be all right. I mean, he's right. Huh? Yes, I'm doing it with you. I'm not asking you to do it on your own because you guys seem like you're okay. So I'm going to let y'all, we're going to go ahead and do it, and then y'all can go have homework time. We want to solve it. There's no other numbers on the other side. The other side says f of x. So for this one, what do we have to do first? Put a 0 in. Put a 0 in. 2x minus 3 squared minus 441. Now, if you want to waste your time, I'm saying waste your time because it is a waste of time, to be honest. And some of y'all are like, why didn't she teach us this last unit? Remember last unit, I made you FOIL it out and put it in standard form and then factor it? Didn't that suck? It was a lot of work. He said it was fun. Okay, it wasn't hard, but it's a lot of work, right? You don't need to do that. Don't need to do it. If it's in vertex form, what is going to be the fastest way to solve this? Square root method. So to find the square roots, to find the x-intercepts, use the square root method. I'm going to cover up the x squared, Shauna. I hope you're paying attention. A boy working on his delta math. Cover up the x squared. It's in the parentheses, so this is where I'm covering first. How do you move a negative 441?
Adding.
Add 4. Good, y'all. Add 441 to the other side. So do y'all agree we're going to get 441? I'm going to put y'all on tech lockdown tomorrow. Because Sean ain't the only one doing his delta math. It's not just you. There's 4 people. I have my delta math screen up underneath this. What do I move next? What do I get rid of next? The 9. Divide the 9. Y'all want me to help you out with that mental math? Yeah, it should be 49. If anybody wants to check me, they can. I can do it to the side for you real fast if you want. 9 times 4 is 36. So that would be 81, which, yep, 49. Are y'all impressed? Oh, he said sure. He's like, not really. I don't care. All right, this one is different, which is why I got on people if they weren't with me. Everybody pay attention. This is different. To get x by itself, does everybody see how this whole thing is squared? You got to square root it now because you can't get to that x if this whole thing is squared. And why the heck would you waste time FOILing this out? How do we get rid of squaring something? Take the square root. So that's why in your steps, I'm going to flip and show you because some of y'all are visual. That's why in your steps, I say get the x squared term. It's not always just going to be x squared. It's going to be wherever the squared is that entire term. Okay? So to get this by itself, we're going to square root both sides. What's the square root of 49? Wrong. 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 All these fools saying just 7. Somebody help them out.
Positive negative 7.
There we go. Plus or minus 7. If you put just 7, it's wrong. You got to put plus or minus. Equals 2x minus 3. You were like, it's not 7? What? How do you get x by itself? Oop, cover it up. What do we move first? Plus 3. My online people, y'all got quiet. Is everybody okay? Oh, wait, and I wrote this wrong. I'm sorry, y'all. Nobody hate me. The ADHD is real, and you know it's real, so just leave me alone. Y'all are fine. Most of y'all using pencil, so it don't even look ugly in your book. Leave it separate. I'm going to show you why in a second. So this is why I want us all still paying attention. You cannot just write that as plus or minus 10. I'm going to show you why. I'm going to show you why. So make sure we're paying attention. You got to divide the 2 next, right? Okay, what this means here, I'm going to separate it for y'all. And I'm going to go shorten y'all's homework because y'all have done really well today. So y'all just hang with me. That's why you don't start your homework in class, because a lot of times I get rid of the problems. All right, everybody look. We can have positive 7 plus 3 divided by 2. So everybody help me out. What is positive 7 plus 3? 10 divided by 2. So we get x equals 5. And make sure we're paying attention. What's negative 7 plus 3? Negative 4 divided by 2 is? Oh, negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Yikes. It's okay. A lot of y'all said the wrong thing. Listen to me carefully. When it is in vertex form, you should get 2 completely different numbers. It's not going to be like the ones up here where it was just plus or minus 2. Because, I'm helping you out, so everybody listen, because we didn't take the square root at the end, we took it in the middle. So then you're going to have positive 7 plus 3 divide by that 2, or you're going to have negative 7 plus 3 divide by that 2. So you should get 2 completely different numbers when it is in vertex form. Because you're not taking the square root at the end, you're taking it in the middle. Do we need another one of these, or you guys feel okay?
Another one.
Okay, so listen, I'm hearing separate things, so I'm going to let you decide. I'm going to put another one up for those of you that want to stay. Those of you that feel okay and you want to go start your homework, go start your homework, but listen, give me about 10 minutes so I can take off the extra problems. All right? And I'm going to go do that right now. So if you want, do y'all agree this one looks like it's in vertex form?
Yes.
Yes, vertex form, good. So if it's in vertex form, we're trying to get whatever's squared by itself. So I'm going to cover up wherever the squared term is. What do I need to move first?
The 10.
Good, so do y'all agree we're going to subtract 10? Y'all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so now what we're left with is 4x minus 3 squared with the 4 out front equals negative 36. So what would I need to move next? Because the squared term isn't by itself yet.
Divide by 4.
Divide by 4, good Carter. Okay, what is negative 36 divided by 4? Yo, what's 36 divided by 4?
Negative 9.
Negative 9, good. So this is 4x minus 3 squared equals negative 9. Now, all I'm left with is this entire thing squared. So this is where we have to do what to both sides?
Square root.
Square root, good. So y'all listen, whenever you get the squared term by itself, when you have everything and it's just squared, that's when you have to go take the square root. So I'm going to square root both sides. The squared and the square root will cancel. So do y'all agree this is just 4x minus 3?
Yes.
Okay, L'Oreal's good. Riley, Soraya, y'all good?
Yes.
Okay, all right, what's the square root of 9?
3.
Okay, plus or minus 3, but it's negative. So what happens when we take the square root of a negative? What kind of number does it end up being?
Imaginary.
Good, so do y'all agree this is plus or minus imaginary 3, 3i? Who did I lose? If I lost you, talk to me.
Wait, how did plus and minus get there again?
Remember, anytime you take a square root, you can have a positive or negative number.
Okay.
Anytime you take a square root. So now, if y'all are good with this, all you got to do now is solve for x. So I would add the 3 over. And then what would you end up doing with the 4 touching the x?
Divide.
You would have to divide it. So I'm going to write my answer right here. I am going to waste another sheet of paper. I'm so sad. I squeezed it for nothing. That's okay though. So you should end up getting x equals. Now, I like to normally put this number in front of the plus or minus just so I don't get confused and try to add them like I did in that first one. So you can write it like this, 3 plus or minus 3i divided by 4. Or you can write it like this. Just be careful if you write it like this, plus or minus 3i plus 3 over 4, because you can't add those. Which this one is nice anyways. You can't add them anyways because they're not both imaginary. But this one you would leave just like this since you can't simplify with imaginaries. We don't do that. We just leave it. Are y'all okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I shortened the homework to 7 questions, and there's none as hard as this. There is one on your test like this, so you guys are getting extra practice.